So next we're going to make a chocolate sandwich cookie, and you can put any filling you want in. I like a vanilla filling, but we'll get to that later. So we're going to start with butter and sugar in the mixer, and we're going to cream those. While those are creaming, we're going to put the dry ingredients together. So this time we're using sweet rice flour. Again, if you're getting sweet rice flour, get it from the Asian market. It'll be really nice and fine, and it's not terribly expensive. We've got some regular white rice flour that we're adding. We've got sorghum flour. We've got cocoa. Now you don't have to sift the cocoa because this is a cookie, and the batter is going to be really thick. The dough is going to be really thick, so you won't have a problem with the cocoa. There is some guar gum. I want to make sure you get all the guar gum out. There's baking soda and baking powder. There's a little bit of salt. And those are the dry ingredients. So now that the butter and sugar have creamed, we're going to add 1 egg. I always crack the eggs first. I never like to crack them into the bowl. And a little bit of vanilla. So now we can start adding the dry ingredients. So what we're making now are some small chocolate wafers. If you're looking for chocolate wafers to use to crunch up for chocolate wafer crumb, you can make up these cookies. You don't actually have to make them into cookies, just make them into chunks and bake them off, and then crush them if you want to use it for use the crumbs. So once the dough is nicely coming off the side of the bowl, it's ready. Look at all that chocolatey goodness. Yum. Okay, so this is drier than some of the other cookie recipes that we've used, but there's a reason for that. So we want to make these into thin wafers. So I'm going to show you a couple of different methods to do that. I use about a teaspoon. And what you want to do is you want to make sure they're all about the same size, because you do have to sandwich them together. So about a teaspoon, and make little balls and put them on the sheet. So the trick here is to get them nice and thin. So I'll show you a few of these first, and then I'll show you another way that I make them. This is such a chocolatey dough. But it's easy to work with. It's really easy to work with. So these are all about the same size. So now you want to get them flat and round. Just take a glass, and I get a piece of parchment paper, and I press down really hard till I've made them nice and thin. So much easier than rolling them out. And it keeps them nice and round. They look a little rustic, but they are homemade. So you can continue with the rest of the pan like that, and we'll do that in a few minutes. There's some other way I want to show you though. I'm always on the lookout for special pans wherever I go. And I saw this one on sale once. It's a Wilton pan, but it's specially made for sandwich cookies. So I'll show you what I do here. So again, you take about the same amount, a teaspoonful. And these are great because they're going to come up with little designs on the bottom of them, just like the sandwich cookies that you'd buy in the store. Now, this is one of the tools I keep in my arsenal. This is a tart presser, so that when you've got your pastry in a tart shell, you use this to extrude it so that you don't actually have to roll it out. Now, I know from having done this lots of times that I want to use the small side here and press this down so that I get it just to the smallest portion of these little molds. So, see how easy that is? Now we've got 4 molded ones. I'm going to go and finish the rest of this pan, and I'm going to finish the other pan, and we'll put them in the oven, bake them off, and I'll show you what to do with them after that. So we're going to make the filling now for the sandwich cookies. I like a vanilla type filling. What you'll find is because there's no real preservatives and that sort of thing, you don't want the filling really, really hard, so that when you bite into them, it squishes out a little bit. That's the way I like to eat them. So we're going to start with icing sugar. You may need a little bit more icing sugar. And we're going to add butter to that. Then we're going to add a little bit of vegetable shortening. And that takes away a little bit from the butter flavor, but gives it a nice consistency. You can do this in the big mixer. I just find it easier if I've got a small amount to do, just to use my small hand mixer. So it's important that your butter is at room temperature for this to really come together. So this is going to be like a thick frosting, but we want it thin enough that we can pipe it. If you do want the filling thicker so that it doesn't ooze out, you can do that too. You'll just have to use a knife to layer it on the cookies. So this is a simple frosting, but what you'll find with it is that the addition of the shortening gives it a bit of a different flavoring. It takes away from the sweetness, and there isn't as much sugar in here as there is in some frostings. So once we get the cookies out of the oven and cooled, I'll show you how we frost them. I'm going to put this in a pastry bag. And again, this is the right consistency to go in a pastry bag, and then it's up to you how much you want to put on the cookies. I don't like to put too much in my cookies, so this will do a whole lot. There we go. I've just got a nice wide tip on the bottom so that I can frost them really quickly. There we go. Now all we need is the cookies. So we've taken out the sandwich cookies, and the important thing is I've let them cool, so they have to cool completely. So you can see how nice and thin they are. The important thing to do now is to match them up. Because they were made by hand, you want to make sure that you get the right size. Oh, there, those two look good together. Those two look good together. So you want to make sure that you get about the right size. You don't want to have a big cookie and some filling and a little cookie on top. So I've got my filling. What I find the easiest way to do it is to just smash it in the middle, and that way you don't have any lines or seams on the outside. And then press it together. You've got a nice sandwich cookie. And by lining them up ahead of time, you can breeze through this part really quickly. You always have to make sure you make an odd number though, so that you can taste one. There we go. Now, remember the ones that I made in this fancy pan that I have? You don't have to line those up because they're all the same size. Look how they came out with a little design on the bottom. So you don't have to worry too much about what the top looks like because they're going to be sandwiched between the cookies. Same thing here. Cookie sandwich. Now the dough that we made, the cookie dough that we made, makes many more cookies than this because there isn't a lot of dough in any particular cookie. What I usually do is I usually set these in the fridge so that they firm up a little bit. Oops. But you don't have to do that. So these are the two that you get. One's a little more rustic, which doesn't have a design on it. And the same filling and same dough were used in a special pan. Let me try. Oh, that's a flavor I remember from my childhood. These are so good, and I love the fact that the icing comes out the side. Really nice. I think next time I'll put some peppermint in the filling. These are great. And the filling stays. You just need to keep them in an airtight container. You don't need to keep them in the fridge so much. But now you can make chocolate sandwich cookies in your own home kitchen, and they're gluten-free.